Welcome all to another episode of Underrated Gaming with your host, Church the Invincible Lincoln here. And this time, we will be talking about the masterpiece that is known as Bulletstorm. One of the greatest underrated gaming of all time. And here are my reasons why. One, it turns killing into an art form that Da Vinci would kiss ass for. Plain and simple. It's got to be probably, to the best of my knowledge, one of the very first games that actually does more creativity in killing and surviving than anything else. And it was one of the very first games that actually introduced me to environmental killing. Like, straight up, if you see something, you can use it. Period. I'm talking barbed wire fencing, simple walls, the ocean itself. Even a simple pencil on a floor can be used as a weapon against them. The story goes that a bunch of mercenaries were betrayed by their very own commander. And they were tricked into thinking that they were killing, bad guys, like drug smugglers, gun runners, and all that good stuff, when really they found out that they were just being played as assassins to cover up their commander's dirty work. That being said and found out, they go into a life of pirates. And that instantly won me, which is why I will say to this day that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is the best one out of them all, and I will fight for that. And as they live in their life of pirates, of scurvy and plunder, I think, if I remember correctly, 10, 20 years later, if I remember correctly, they find their commander in their prized warboard, the Ulysses, and decide to take it head on in a Class D vessel that they stole years ago. Of course, it ended bad, but they decided if they're going to die, they're going to take it with them, so they decide to kamikaze it into a planet, leaving everyone stranded. And the characters themselves, in my opinion, you instantly start to bond and feel sympathy for, especially the main character and his best friend. You play as the jack-of-all-trade pirate, Grayson Hunt, seeking revenge and redemption at the same time while being drunk 24/7, along with his best friend, Ishii, who damn near sacrifices himself to save you during the crash, turns into half robot, and that's the bad part too, because half of his brain gets turned into a programmed AI in order to save him, while their other combatants and comrades get killed in the process due to infected and mutated citizens of the planet that used to be. And that pretty much leaves Ishii struggling to stay in control into his moral side against his genocide wanting to create robot self. And along the way, you'll start picking up different weapons that have their own specialized killing ways. Each and every single weapon you find has their own labeled hidden kills that you can find along the way by experimenting with both the gun and the environment. Like I said, it turns killing into an art form. And to the point where I was just smiling from ear to ear maniacally. From revolvers to flails to drills themselves. That's where things get really interesting. They even pull a Matrix with a sniper rifle of all things. And much more of it. You'll even find machines and weaponry along in the game that you can't really keep, but you use them to help you progress further into the game, which even them themselves have their hidden skills. And the best part about these skills that you unlock and constantly use over and over again gets you points, and you use those points to buy more moves or upgrade your skills or your leash, which you get at the beginning of the game, which helps you pretty much throughout the entire game. It's like the key of the game, which also helps you like leash in enemies, and then you give them a good boot and for like environmental assist kills or even air kills along with your weapons, depending on the weapon that you have, of course. And along your way, you end up finding this chick that happens to be on the commander's side pretty much about 70% of the entire game, until she finds out the truth and that you're really a good guy at heart. It goes by the name of Trishka, which is, plot twist, the daughter of the last guy that you killed all those years ago before you went rogue. And she's almost as bad, if not worse, than Gray with her attitude and her kill to survive attitude. And the enemies themselves are pretty much well done, even though that they are pretty much kind of recycled. It's still pretty good. And there are even some enemies where you actually have to figure out different ways on how to kill them. For instance, going behind them and shooting them in the ass. Why not? The flaws of this game, there are glitches in the game, but some of but they could be either good or bad, and some of them are actually pretty funny, where if you kill something, and if you're lucky enough, you'll get to see it just flip around, which actually makes for a good entertainment source for like a good 5 minutes, and then you'll just walk away from it like nothing happened. There are some parts of the game where, depending on the weapon that you have, a specific weapon, of course, like for me, it's always the flail gun, which is my personal favorite, and I pretty much carry that throughout the entire game because it's probably the most strategic and most destructive, well, one of the most destructive weapons in the game, aside from the bouncer and the drill gun. And there are times in the game where you'll, in certain areas, certain scenes of the game, where after a cutscene is over, your guns will glitch. Like, you'll end up having like two flail guns. One's completely out of ammo, while the other one is still the same ammo that you had before, and you're pretty much just stuck with that one weapon until you go back to a drop box and fix your gear. And I've had to do this, and I gotta do this a couple of times every time I do a playthrough of the game. It's kind of annoying, but it's not a big, it doesn't happen so much that I'm gonna flip out about it. Other than that, that's pretty much like all the flaws I know off the top of my head. It's been a while since I played it, so of course by the time I play it and I'll find a flaw or a glitch that I haven't, put in this video, and I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have had that in my video, or I could have remembered that, or how could I have forgotten that? The usual stuff. The conclusion of the game is actually pretty sympathetic, but it's both rather cliche-ic, where I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it, seeing as how this is a review. Basically, nobody dies in the game, except, like, the really main characters. Your crewmates, yeah, they die. The innocent people aboard, the Ulysses, the doctors, the maintenance people, yeah, they die during the crash. But pretty much every single key player in the game just pretty much up and lives. Even Ishii at the end, after you skip the credits, you find out he's still alive too, after his sacrifice. Which the reason why is because they wanted to lead this all up into the sequel that never happened, and they were actually going to too. There's proof of it on the internet that they were actually going to, but it just didn't happen. The idea was up there, but they just up and canceled it, and I was actually pretty heartbroken too. Well, there's always that what if. The ending of this, the game is good. I highly recommend it. Don't even bother renting it. Just go and buy it, because I assure you it will be worth it. You can probably pick this game up like $15-20 at the most at your local used game retail, and you won't be disappointed. And as always, if there is a PS3 game or even a PS2, I'll do special requests that you people think it is underrated or deserves more attention than what it should have. Just go ahead and drop a comment if you feel like it in the comments below. I know I'm not the best reviewer out there, and I'm working on it, But other than that, this is Church Invincible Lincoln signing off.